Very good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you all?
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir.
Okay, let's start. Let me put up the. So, welcome to I think, the fifth session of this instructional design paper 2 module. And we are almost halfway through with today. We have 4 more sessions to go after this. And I've been focusing almost the rate of 2 sessions for all these modules. But hitherto we may have to go a bit fast to cover the syllabus. So I'm constrained to limit maybe one session per module in the next 5 days so that we'll cover the syllabus. But it was important that the theories earlier on e-learning and today and last week on the various models of instruction design are given due importance, because most of you, or including myself, are not fully aware. We are doing by our own experimentation and all that, but it's important that we give it. Further, whatever we are going to learn would be a bit easier because we have been doing it. It's more the execution part of training need analysis and things like that. So I'll stop sharing this particularly, but just to take a recap of what we did last week in terms of the coverage we did. If you remember, we had if you remember right, I had described the human performance system, the variables involved in the human performance system. When you call a system, there are input, then there is output, there is feedback. But it was in the context of the work environment, right? So the most important thing is performance, which resulted in the output. And there's a system, which could be the organization or even external. And there were feedback in terms of both the corrective feedback and the motivational feedback, which comes from the receiving system. So the idea of starting with that is it's a human performance system where, in fact, now of late technology is intensively used or extensively used. So that is also now extended now to relate workplace, work, and worker. They interact with each other in the technology space under the same conditions earlier to result into a worthy performance. I mentioned, if you remember. Then what is important is the return on investment, right? So whatever we have invested to training, it has to be translated into performance. Then the gap, the improvement is the ROI. That's what we as managers or trainers or instructional designers have to focus on. Then we noticed that when you're talking about an organization, so against these organization or the workplace, the job, which could be the work, and the people or the worker, and against those conditions of on the x-axis, which could be input, output, and all that. So, and outcomes, we examined in an organization how many variables could be there. So it's almost into 12 variables. Under the variables, several specific could be there, which can have a bearing on the performance. So it's up to us to use the framework to see whether the context that we are in has a training solution or not a training solution. We cannot have everything to be taken as a training.
Not able to hear you. There's a lot of disturbance going on at the back.
Can you please mute, all of you? Can all of you mute, please? Okay. So with that into context, I gave you an example of what we did in the steel plant, where we had this problem of, they had the hot metal mixer shop. And then we experimented this. We have tried to sort of deploy a mechanism where we could integrate the hot metal mixer department with the steel melting shop. Because of this experience of delays and then poor quality of supply of metal and things like that, then we have went through about 20 IDs, acronyms out of the 50 that is available in the course material, which we as ID or even trainers, particularly, or more important, as today e-learning has come in vogue in a very big way, should be familiar with. Then we got into again understanding of what is our role as instructional designers, and then listed and examined the various definitions of whether it's ID, ISD, or LXD, or learning experience designer. Then, just like we discussed the learning theories earlier on, we started to understand the evolution of the instruction design theories and models, and what is the need of studying them. We, I think, agreed that it is imperative for the purpose of following principles of systematically developing procedures and materials which are required for the context or situation, and make it design oriented rather than description oriented. Then we started the models by understanding the universal systems model, which was developed by Beck and Skornak, to drive home the point that we have to have a broader picture in mind, right? We cannot just go in piecemeal. So we'll have to see the context of what we are designing a program for. Then we went on to discuss the ADDIE model, which stands for Analysis, Design, Develop, Implementation, and Evaluation. So this was developed by, as you know, the Florida University, and of late has undergone 2 evaluations during and even at the final. And ADDIE is extensively used these days. And I showed you a retrofit model of how this was used in the design of a performance enhancement program back in the organization I worked some 20 years back. Though I did not directly experiment, I could see a relation. I wish I had known that before, but I could see the integration, and I topped it up by showing to you that there is also what is called the ARCS model, which stands for Attention, Relevance, Confidence, and Satisfaction. So with reference to a learner, with reference to the design, so whatever we build in has these things also have to be important checklist to ensure that learning design is quite efficient or effective for the learning and delivery of instructions to the various learners. So against that training module, I also checked with how these are all backed up, or both the ADDIE and also the ARC's model is justified. So today we have several models to cover in the next 1 hour and 15 minutes. So time permits, I will also conduct a little quiz like we do, the match the following with the model and the founder, and also some fill in the blanks that we did earlier. And the next Sunday, we will take the topic of training needs analysis. So because of this time, I may not be giving any examples, honestly, but it could be more or less a presentation today. But let me tell that I've built in some content which is not available in your course material, right? So there are very few pictorial representations of the models in the course material. So I have brought in some pictorial models which could come in very useful to you to better grasp the models, and which can use for to better understanding, and also use for your examinations as well. So let us start with the backward design model, which is the one which is to be discovered, not covered yet. So what is this backward design model? The backward design model, as you can, 1 minute, developed by McChigay and Wiggins. So what it talks, you remember that if you are, some of you have read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What does Stephen Covey say? Begin with the end in mind. So unlike most conventional ways, we start with the objectives and things, I mean, with design and other things. So what these two gentlemen said was, we will go with the end in mind. What is the design result? What do we expect the students? Because most, in fact, as I told you the first time itself, the entire models that we are learning actually started off in the classrooms, requirement in the courses for academic purposes. Some of them has been or have been now reflected onto even training programs in corporates as well. So when I say that, most of them, almost all of them have been with this context in mind. So what it says is, what will students be able to do by the end of the lesson or the module, right? Or the course, whatever. So what are results expected? Now, if these are the results expected, now how do we know they are performing, they are demonstrating? So we must have an assessment, right? There has to be evidence, whether it's a knowledge test or a skill test or whatever they have demonstrated. So that, how do you do it? By determining some things which you can assess them, right? Then planning learning experiences. That is, what type of activities? If you have to do this assessment, we have to have inbuilt system that can ensure that they're able to demonstrate this. So what are those activities? What are the materials? What are the resources that we need to use to ensure that students are able to bring in the desired results? So that is planning, learning experience, and instruction. Now, these things we will remember, the guidelines would be the intentions. So we need to ensure that the director is able to establish the purpose. The intention is very important. And the instructions for the teachers, whoever, is see how to get the best out of the learning activities. Just to have something, let us have some activity so that they will be doing something. That's not the purpose. We notice Mr. just for the sake of maybe putting them to be active, lunch, have some activity is not the purpose. Every activity should have an intention that leads to desired result, which can be applied back in the workplace or back in the exams or whatever it is. So there's no fluff or the material. What is important is actually introduced. Then the student has to be measured. What exactly he or she has to know or demonstrate by using this particular process. Okay, this is what the backward design says. Right? Normally, what happens is we go the other way. Right? This is what it says. Begin with the end in mind. Now, most of you are familiar with design thinking. Right? It's in a rage over the last decade. Most of the organizations have started talking about design thinking, doing design thinking. So these continuous improvement things is coming in. They do a depth. But well, even in learning area also, this was used, taking the cue from the Stanford University, which developed this. The same principles of empathizing, designing, ideating, prototyping, and testing. So if we are instructors or designers, let us empathize with the learners. So some interviews, observe them through shadow studies. Let us try to understand. Let us be non-judgmental. So the similar lines as design thinking to apply for problem solving in organizations. Even that's also experimented to develop instruction material. So then define the persona, the type of characteristics of the audience, what are their roles, what are the objectives of the roles, what are the decisions they have to take, what are the challenges they encounter, what are the pain points they come across. Then ideate. So what will be do some brainstorming, what are the ideas, how can you evaluate those ideas, whatever, how can you converge those ideas? And maybe those ideas can lead through free willing to some other better ideas. So, okay, we can use it and maybe something else. Then prioritize what will be the best. Then develop one prototype, which can possibly work well. Use storyboards and as simple as possible, because some of it could be extensively used in e-learning. So we have to see how effectively we can develop a prototype and use the iterations very quickly and test it. So what are the impediments that could come across, and then what could work, what may not work, do a little role play actually, and then if required again iteration quickly. So design based on the principle of design thinking, this also has been used in education arena too. So if you see, these are the guidelines that are thing, it's based on solution approach, right, to solve problems. So the instruction designer will have to visualize and think critically on what are the solutions that for which instructions are to be designed. So against the learning outcomes and the domain of training, all these instructions have to be designed. So it's very iterative. So it could go back, come back and forth at various stages here. Yes. Yes. Can you please mute if you don't have a question? It's iterative, flexible, and focus on collaboration between designers and users, right? So we want to bring those ideas from reality so that we can use it. Next, of course, is the WARC learning modules. The word, the acronym WARC stands for visual, A for oral, R for read, and maybe write also, and kinesthetic. So learners, there are different types of learners. Some learners learn by visual means, some by audio, some by, these are the various styles, preferential styles of people, right? We'll understand what good for what. So WARC learning styles, this was developed by Neil Fleming in 87. Of course, whatever models I'm going to share may not be in chronological order. So it's probably in the order in where the course material has been given, or maybe in terms of popularity in others. So in the WARC model, as it's the first one, which is visual, right? What does visual mean? Through pictures, right? So there are some people who are aligned to learning through visuals, right? Spatial arrangements and things like that. There are some who learn, what is important is they particularly people with dyslexia, right? They learn better through the spatial means. Architects, designers, photographers, video editors. So any training program for them obviously will have to have more visual content or visual impactful content. Whereas for audio or oral, the people who learn from discussions, right? It typically happens in executive managerial staff programs, in team meetings, in also in some training programs where you have some or middle and executive level. So they'll all from cross-sharing from peers, right? So that's where, if that is the audience, this could be, right? Then comes these academicians who normally tend to read, write, sorry. So I'm sorry for this. So then they have this third, which is the reading and writing, which is where learners prefer books and handouts. It could be on language. So academicians and high achievers. So I know I have a classmate who never used to do mathematics, right? Who never used to actually solve problems. He used to read the book. So there are some high IQ guys who who can read a book and then even learn. So this is more appropriate to academicians. Then there could be like those people who believe in doing things, the kinesthetic guys. Type, they have to see examples, some simulations, right? So workers and some professionals who have to require physical skills. So you can't learn to drive an airplane or a ship by just or reading a book or manual. We have to read driving a car too. So we have to learn through this. So it doesn't mean, one thing we must be very careful that we cannot make assumptions that we can just have only one method to get people to learn. People have their preferences. So we have to see what best we can do. So I put a caveat here, matching teaching method to learning style doesn't significantly impact. We have to mind that, right? So we have to see how best, depending upon the audience, we have to design a program or a course. And it's important that we need understanding preferences per se. So there's a majority are of this type, then we can have more such input. We can keep into cognizance that particular content relating to the preference of style. But we'll have to see a mix and match depending on the how heterogeneous or homogeneous an audience is. Okay. So this is about the VARC learning style. The next is the CCAF model, which is at present CCAF stands for context, challenge, and activity and feedback. So what it talks about is a program or course which you want to develop has to have a context. Is more or less used for, in fact, whatever you see are generally, except a few are applicable for e-learning courses. So there has to be a system of a situation or a context which is related to the organization and to the person working in, and a stimulus or an urgency to act. Something has to be, a challenge has to be there, right? In the course itself for him or her to learn. And then an activity which should be a response to a particular challenge. And a feedback to make him or her see the consequence of an action. So this is which I could relate in our organization when we extensively started using e-learning in the area of safety, in the area of making some electrical and mechanical project executions. We built in this particular model, not knowing actually this is CCAF, in trying to see if you do this, what happened? If you don't do this, what happened? All pluses and minuses through simulated means was developed. But now I understand this is actually the CCAF model, right? We have been from time immemorial using different methods for learning, right? 3,000 years back, when it was Arjuna who learned to learn through Dronacharya or Ekalavya without a guru, they learned somewhere means. But now we are able to, because of advent of technology, because of learning speed that we have to get into, we are taking use of the various models which have been developed by researchers to understand what is the way out. Now, how the CCAF helps us is, it gives us provides some challenging learning experiences and some interactive learning experiences in the e-learning courses. As I said, it's most suitable for distance education and e-learning. I'm sorry, I'm not able to bring out this in our courses, in our programs. But what is important here is the context provides the environment where the consequences and expectations of the challenge is made to feel real, right? Then so many of the games you would see, they have these simulations. You would have seen the games on your mobile and all that. Then activity includes all those gestures, symbols, right? That what you need to take, press button for something and things like that. And feedback is given through whatever advice, so that people learn by making mistakes and what should be done, what not should be done, all that. So this is not new also. Even so 25 years back when we had this introduction of computer-based learning, we were having this too. Now, the Megger pipe, this is a bit complex framework. Do not worry about the complexity here, but this is what is called the reference instruction framework. What it is based on is the, don't worry about this. It's actually based on algorithms or a flowchart, right? So it gives based on requirement of a performance, conditions, and these are the components, right? The criterion. So if you remember, there are in the flow chart, you have the if and why and all that. So if this is performance is expected of an area of a person and all that, then what is the condition? If it is happening, yes, then action, no, some other action. So a previous series of algorithmically a flow chart is used. This leads to the next steps, right? And then, well, it ultimately, when you arrive at, okay, all these problems, lack of performance is because of skill deficiency, then what next? What are the specific actions I need to do? So using this series of, yes, no, a performance-based, questions, conditions, and all that, the criteria, we develop a focus of what should be the actions. So it's actually a 4-step process, which is task analysis. Whatever the task, we analyze the task threadbare, right? And then see at every level, what is the performance objective? How this performance has to be made, at what level? Then ask this question, the criteria. Clear, not clear, that quantity correct, quality correct, right? It has been performed without any issue, problem, right? The performance could be rewarded. I mean, so many questions are asked. Then we develop specific actions, and then we develop the entire course content, design the instructions, and then develop it. So this is in simple way, though it's quite a elaborate framework for which is called Megger pipes method, not Piper as it mentioned in the book, criterion reference instruction framework. Now, next we will discuss about the calls learning model, wherein this is also called the experiential system, experiential learning cycle, right? Wherein you have the concrete experience, wherein an individual learns through doing or getting an experience. Then there is a reflective observation, where the individual reflects on the experience. Then there is an abstract conceptualization, where he starts concluding learning from the experience. And there is the active experimentation, where actually he tries out. Now, what you see with the arrows are, how do we develop in these areas? Where experience can be further enhanced or improved upon through a coach. Now, our observation, reflection can be further improved on by discussion. Now, conceptualization is either through reading or further reading. And if it has to be experimented, right, then we have to utilize the help of an expert coach. Now, there is actually, based on this, there is the David Cobb brought out these styles as well. So you see, there are some opposite conflicting thoughts. A person who feels at the same time may not think. A person who reflects at the same time may not do, right? It may not happen simultaneously. But here is a learner who may have a preference to doing by feeling or doing by thinking. To evolve himself to have a holistic experience, an instruction designer will have to take him or her through these cycles to have a holistic experience, right? So there is between, if you see in this chart, feeling, which is related to concrete experience, and reflective observation through watching, what is called diverging, right? Where understanding others understanding what others take. Then between watching and thinking. Through this, we assimilate. Right? We assimilate knowledge. How do you do? By observing and also by reading. We assimilate. Then converging is where we do and think. Yes, Shivani.
So I have a question here,
Yeah.
just for the clarity.
Yeah.
So as suggested in this model that we have four and the four combination of learning styles. So as an instructional designer, should we use TNA to learn about the audience first, and so that we can develop our program in such a manner that we are either taking two combination, or is it like according to this model we have to maintain all the four types of courses into it?
So see, the idea of this too is what can I say is, so we understand you do a training and analysis, but we must understand, considering the fact there are different types of learners, to make a person who prefers thinking, he will have to have in this content or the design certain experiences where he will be actually doing based on what he thinks, right? Assuming that he'll read and apply will not be possible. We will have to have certain examples or experiences that will make those people who prefer only thinking to actually do. You know what I'm saying? So we have to put into in our course modules such examples or tools or methods to make these experiences. A person who is thinking cannot directly go to a feeling unless he does something, right? He will not feel it unless he does it, right? So that is the principle or background behind this. So understand if these are the various methods into getting into this. Then based on this background, there are two gentlemen named, of course, what actually it says is, I'll just summarize. In this, it's a process, right? So it's best conceived as a process. It's just not outcome, right? Just it goes through a continuous process. And the conflicts between opposed methods adoption is there. That is, one is thinking, the other is feeling, one is doing, another is watching. When you watch, you don't do, right? So a person who watches, obviously you will see in a cricket match, spectators become expert commentators, right? Or any match. They are, why did you play like this? But only if you goes on the field, he will know how difficult it is, right? So that's how, unless a person experiences that, he will not be able to really empathize or relate to that particular experience. So it's a holistic experience, a process of adapting to the world. Now, lot of transactions have to be made for the person to actually get into this environment, right? So knowledge has to be created related to having a person to experience all these four, types: knowledge, thinking, watching, doing, and feeling, to get that holistic experience. So obviously, Cole's model is very useful when it is practical, right? If there is a costly process, we can't afford to do any mistakes, right? So simulations has to be done, whether it is possible physical or online, whatever, so that mistakes do not happen, right? So a person has to relate, if small mistake, what could be the impact? He or she cannot take things for granted, right? So based on, oh, I ride a scooter, a two-wheeler, I can easily ride a car. It's just not on. So you'll have to have a experience of simulation. What could go wrong if you go based on the same assumptions? So based on this Cobb's model, these two gentlemen developed what is called the learning styles. So you could have noticed there is a concrete feeling, then opposite thinking, there is observation, and then experimentation. So he coined reflectors as that between feeling and watching, what we saw as diverging, right? Similarly, theorists between observation and conceptualization. Pragmatists between perception and processing, between conceptualization and experimentation, and activists who feel and do. So he gave this term for the four quadrants between this. If you see on the horizontal axis, there is a continuum of processing, right? So if you, when you do something, you either learn by observing or watch and do simultaneously, right? So it's called the processing continuum. Whereas when you actually try to understand, feel something, you from thinking to feeling, it is called the perception continuum. A perception, something which you assumed this, the reality will be possible only when you go through this process, through the being by doing it and then arriving at that feeling. On vice versa, a person who has only the feeling will be also be made to understand through the process, through reflecting and also relating to a theory. So this is, though it may look a bit very conceptual, the educators brought this what you call analogies to make us more understand how this can be related to our practice or daily use. Now, this was developed in 1986. So what each one of this stands for is, so reflectors are those people who learn best when they observe others and think about it. Then the theories are those almost similar terms we saw in the Kolb's model. They learn best by seeing what is the theory behind it, why something is the way it is. Then, of course, this principle or theory is applicable in the design of learning experience, and what is the material we need to develop based on the learner style. And it just can't be a standalone. It has to be supplemented or complemented by any other learning model. Now, pragmatists are those who actually learn by putting things into practice, and activists are those who learn best by doing and moving next. They want to build on whatever they have in hand before moving next. So what these styles by Horney and Mufford is actually building on Kolb's, and to give this the term, where we can better understand and all those diverging and other things, to make us relate, well, this is what is the nature or the style of these persons' preference in terms of learning. Then comes the ropes model. So ropes here stands for review, O stands for overview, P stands for presentation, E stands for exercise, and S stands for summary. So this is also essentially used for e-learning models, e-learning design. So if you are the instructional designer, then like we did in the earlier backward understanding model, state the main training goal, what we want to achieve through this training. It starts with understanding the background of the learner, what are his or her experiences to start with. Then start with the overview of the topic. Then what are the important points that are required before we move forward. Then develop the learning objectives. Then understanding the benefits of this topic. So this gives topic, typically we do any training program, we start like this. To further improve on this, so presentation is made, general concept. In fact, ropes is if you really see, they form the framework for developing any e-learning course or the models that we see. It's very simple to understand. This forms the framework, and all those other instructional design based on various models are more or less based on this. Then the presentation is made to the stakeholders involved. So then the application discussed, the various steps are developed, and then examples are also developed here. Then another important thing is activities. What are those activities that the learner has to engage in, then we'll have to have the learner to explain how and why. So whatever we teach can be best applied if the learner knows what, not only the what, but also the hows and whys. So the exercises have to have every opportunity for the learner to apply through demos, through examples. Then only it's possible for the person to be assessed. Then observing and asking questions. Then a debrief. Why? Okay, if this is the case, what would you do? It's almost developed as a competency checklist, right? So almost like a behavioral event interviewing. This happens, what will you do? This happens, what will you do? That's how the exercises should be so developed. And then the summarized. So, okay, the topic we have studied, this is what is discussed. These are the important points that we need to remember with reference to safety, with reference to doing things correctly, with reference to, I'm talking typically functional area or a technical area. Then checking with questions, right? If you do, what will happen? Just to summarize, instructor checking questions, right? Leading them, okay, I will do like this. What will happen? Deliberately telling something which is the wrong way of doing. So that the person, in fact, that instructional design be such in the thing by asking question which leads the person to relate and say, no, that is not the way to do it. So those sort of things also have to be asked to confirm person whether really understood the correct way of doing things. And any questions that the learners have, any doubts, they can be answered. Very simple, what's called the ropes way. I'm just giving an example for ropes here. I just taken, I have encountered several people who are very difficult to handle in training programs. Okay, you have been very sweet group of participants in the course, right? But in the classrooms, I have handled, since I started training at a pretty young age, I used to handle people who are almost double my age at a point of time. And they used to be extremely challenging. So to meet those challenges, it's sort of how this can be developed. The idea was to prepare a plan for addressing difficult behavior in the training environment. That's the objective of this, using ropes. Okay. So as you saw, ropes stands for review of the overview, presentation, exercise, summary, etc. Now the topic, see, you could see what is R here, review. Now, so see, I'm not talking in a training program. I'm addressing an issue, right? The issue is reference to difficult behaviors, challenging people in a training program. Now, this is a difficult behavior, potential difficult behavior, experienced people, overly intelligent, right? So if this is a situation that I'm likely to encounter, then what is the best method? I will use a large group interaction discussion. So when there are people who try to point out mistakes or what you know, I know better, I have a lot of experience. If you have a large group discussion, then you are saved. So there will be the other people who are favorable to you will simply quell those excitement or those critics who crop in such groups, right? So some sort of icebreaker to quell that particular situation, that's the time given. Now, getting the jump on difficult behavior, that is, now there will be issues where people will behave, then we can have this. Then maybe I can start out saying that there will be people here who may not accept my this particular concept or a proposition or what we are going to do. They may think that they are great leaders, the leadership program, but then give a principle of who are great leaders. What are the principles or values of great leader? A lecture, a PowerPoint presentation. What we assumed are not great, are great leaders or not great, and eventually they failed. Giving examples. People may think Hitler was a great leader, right? So they have that, but you could have seen what he led to. So the assumptions of people who they thought are great leaders. I'm just giving examples of leaders. We'll have to have sort of a lecture with a PowerPoint presentation to show that some assumptions may not be right? Then addressing, outlining what will be the plan for the difficult behavior by the steps through, again, PowerPoint presentation, developing solution to address difficult behaviors. So if either for myself or if I am taking a session for such people in a program, like you also maybe trainers, how do I take care of difficult behaviors in a classroom? This could be helping to develop a instruction design for meeting that requirement. It doesn't end with this. Now, summarizing the plan for addressing, right? Again, okay, now that we learned this way, okay, how do you think? How should we go about? Just summarizing what we learned. So this is how we are deploying ropes in action. Now comes a very interesting model by Kathy Moore. It is as late as 2008. Now she developed what is called the action mapping. So it's very highly performance-based approach to instructional design. So what she developed was what is required for the business world. What is important is performance. What is important? Achieving targets, achieving goals, right? So as designers, how can we quickly or the best way commit to improving the performance of the business? Instead of going to the rigmarole, okay, develop some content, let us have some icebreakers, let us have this. People today, unlike the earlier days, 20 years back, do not have the luxury of sitting to a classroom to have those activities, nice to have activities. No, they want to just go ahead with what needs to be done. What used to be, as I said earlier, a 4-day program. I just can't do it in 4 days now. Maximum 2 days, if not even less. So I'll have to come to directly to the performance requirements, possibly. Now, what is the best solution to the performance problem? Yes, Ricky, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Having going through these models, anything while doing the instruction designing, anything specific we need to take care for as a model, or it will be a mosaic of everything?
See, you can see it's always, it could be confusing to do the window shopping here, oh, I'll take this model, that model. You can just take a maximum of 2 models.
Okay.
What appeals to you? Right?
For example, David Cobb is very prevalent these days. So people are preferring that. So that is the way we have to work, or we can
I
refer
would
to
even
the
sometimes pre what the model I'm talking about, right?
Okay.
That is a thing, that is okay, fine. But here that could be more conceptual, or maybe it could be more activity oriented. I'm talking here of performance, right? I want performance to be achieved. This is the target for the next 6 months. You're already in September. Now, by the end of the year, this is the target to be achieved. If that is there, I would go ahead taking Kathy Moore's model, right? Okay. I will describe to you how it is. Now, create some practices, activities. In this program, in this course, there are no presentations. Oh, we have to know this. We have to know that. Knowledge is bare minimum, which is required, right? No theory, like I'm trying to show you a lot of theory, principles, and nothing. Go at it. What is actually required to do? Now, this Kathy Moore's model process is go systematically using the symbols, as you can see. Identify the business goal, the target, right? To reduce defects by so and so, right? To improve performance from this to this. That's the goal. 9. The second step through the symbol is what people need to do to reach that goal. What exactly they have to do that they're not doing. Clear, right? Next, what are the activities that help those people to practice that behavior, right? They are supposed to be performing like this in terms of doing this correctly. They're not doing correctly. They're making mistakes, right? They're careless. The housekeeping is wrong. They're keeping things here and there. these are the things that they are not doing, which they have to do. So build in activities that help them to practice that behavior, which they are supposed to do, right? There is no need to go into the concepts of, okay, housekeeping is bad. Okay, there is 5S model, series, CISO, CTON, CIKATSU, SICHUKE. I don't want to go into those 5S model at all. Nice to know, perfectly all right. But there is no time. Go attack. That's what this action mapping says. We do not have the time now. Now, I'm giving you an example how this mapping is done. You must have done mind mapping, right? You also know mind mapping. It's just on same principles, right? So using those symbols only. So there's a measurable goal, there's a target, right? So each of those exclamation marks is those, what is they are doing now, if they are not doing right, right? And that hand model is what are the activities that we'll have to do, right? And what is the thing we need to know? There's some basic we need to know, right? Some information. So you are converging, or you can call it from this way. When you develop the instruction design, it is diverging, right? So when you develop the instruction design, for this, there could be so many reasons why this is not happening. Now, if this is the case, what are the activities I need to build for the purpose for the instruction design? Then for this, I must need to make them aware of this is not the way, this should be the way. Why this is wrong? You getting what I'm saying? So this is how you need to diverge for instruction design, and for the training program, you converge, right? To ensure that they perform. You getting? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One more thing. Let's suppose we've done instruction design. There's a first training which has gone with, for example, I have to do it for a good number of people. So first group I selected, I did the training for them. If there are changes, let's suppose I realize that this is not going good, I implement that in the next training also. So that I changed the little changes have been done, and next training is done.
Yeah.
Now that can be carried forward as a sample that yes, now the trainings will happen like this or like that.
Why not? See, you are free to see ultimately what are you doing? Why are you doing these changes? For better results, right?
Yes.
So who stops you to not doing it? It's not it's not written that this is the only way to do it. Yes, it's important we have to develop a standard, right? But if you are the instruction designer, you can suggest, well, based on the feedback. If you also happen to be the trainer, nothing like it. But if the trainer gives a feedback, this is what is being done, this is not, and gives you this feedback, you can incorporate changes, right? Nothing wrong in it. So be it. Now, there could be other questions, fundamentally. In fact, if I relate, there are some training programs, maybe if I have some time later, I will show. Now I see that I actually did action mapping without knowing this, okay? But what is the problem? These are the questions that we need to ask as instructor designer. How do we know we have solved the problem, right? Then what do we need to do? Almost the same thing that I asked. Why aren't we doing it? What can we do to help them practice what they need to do? And what information must they have to complete the practice? These are those 4 very important questions that we need to think of. Now, this next is the Gagne's 9 events, which we also discussed in the first session.
Could you please go back?
Yeah. This one. The same questions I asked, in those questions there, in the symbolically, it's put in this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Done, sir.
Okay. So remember Gagne's 9-step model. Remember the first session, there were 9 steps, and these are the things that we need to understand for developing the instruction design. Ideally that particular this topic has to become now, but I was just trying to connect to you at the time of learning, when we are sharing learning the theories and all that. See, these are those steps that are required. The corporate require some ways to ensure that training, whatever they learn is retentive. People remember. So that's the reason why I've used Gagne then. Now I'm trying to put it symbolically here. So first and foremost step is the gaining attention, right? What we need to do to get attention from the audience. Then inform the learner what are the objectives of the sessions or the course. Check with them what do they know earlier, the prior learning. Then they will present that content. Then guidance if required in terms of whatever needs to be done. Then get them to practice. Then provide feedback, assess performance, and then enhance the retention and transfer to the job, as we could see. Now, the same thing which I showed last time, I'm showing you here. Specific is how do I gain attention? By relating to surprising fact, by doing a demo. How do I explain the objectives? By ensuring what's in it for me, try to explain that. How do I recall prior knowledge? By stimulating prior learning, building on what is already they know. Then how do you present new content? Link to familiar ones, right? Manageable segments, small chunk elements we can bring in. So how do I provide guidance? Through examples, through questions, mental mapping, and things like that. So each of these steps can be ensured through specific design to our examples or experiences to retain learning. The idea of the Gagne's 9 steps is to improve the retention of learning and transfer of learning, right? Then comes the Dick and Carries.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, one small thing.
Yes, Om.
Like first is gain attention.
Yeah.
So nowadays I have seen everyone that pose a question first who enters in the class for any class or some demo or some lectures. So my question is that, sir, for that entry level executives or managers, middle managers or top managers. So that depends on the how the audience, if audience are higher level officers. So we need to take class. So we start telling or whatever class is there, whatever lecture is there, we start. So they are learning what I am speaking. So need not to teach them much attention how to be attentive towards the speaker. So is there importance to pose a question on that if the group is very high intellect?
No, even if high intellect people, see, they come with their baggage, right? So there is some problem in their shop floor, something that has happened, or anywhere. So you can start giving attention by giving a fact, right? Surprising fact or something related to the area.
Yes, sir.
Usually, what we used to do is that if
No,
somebody,
I'm sorry, there's a cross talk. I don't
कोई
even...
बात नहीं उनको बोले चार्ज कर
Hello, Nikita ji, can you please mute
Nikita.
your phone? Nikita, Om Kumar, I think. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
it used to happen was that the people were very senior, so we used to ask their opinion. Putting it, it's not like asking a question; it is like asking their opinion. So what happens is you change the perspective and the answer. You still get the same answer.
Exactly. Though, see, how could you can start this? In fact, if I have experienced that senior people, there also there's a challenge, right? In fact, when we have junior people, they come with some, oh, there's something I learned. But with senior people, what will I learn? That could be a question also, right? So we can give some pointer, some sort of a quiz. Even today's news, you can start this related to thing. What happened in the Red Sea today? It could be news that it could relate if you are doing an oil and gas company. You can say, what happened? So we have to be, our ears and eyes should be open to give some very interesting, may not be political, but geopolitical news, something like that, to gain attention. Some relevance to whatever topic you are going. So you can connect to a topic which you want to share with something which has happened today or yesterday or a week back, which could gain attention, right? There's something which you can do, irrespective of whoever is the audience is. But gaining attention is important because when you do that, you shake a bit people to just be focused, right? And this has to happen not the first time. Even during a session of half an hour or 1 hour, every 15 minutes, you're able to do it, nothing like it. It's in fact almost about half an hour I've gone through it. So I think I should break here for do a little quiz because there may only one more half an hour. I'll do that, match the following thing. I presume you remember something. I'll simply jump into that that match the following. Just break the monotony of me talking only, right? Okay, I've already showed you probably. Okay, now we have to match this. So we have on the left, you're able to see the theories or models
Yes, sir.
and founders on the right. So what is criterion difference instruction? Who is the one who founded it? Omkar, can you please mute? Okay, I muted you. Criterion reference instruction. Who is the one who developed it? CRI. You remember the flowchart thing? Algorithm? Anyone? Merger, Mager pipe. Okay. Who developed the ARCS model? What does ARCS stand for? ARCS. Who developed it? Anyone?
Attention, relevance.
Yes, yes. Confidence and satisfaction. Who developed
Keller.
It is
John
John
Keller.
Keller.
John
it?
Keller.
John Keller.
John
Okay.
Keller, yes.
CCAF model, you just saw that. CCAF model. Context.
Context, challenge, activity and feedback.
Yeah, Michael Allen. Okay, there's another guy, I think Gabby Salmon, who developed it. It's not clear. Next is VARC model, VARC learning style.
VARC is
It's a
visual,
visual,
oral, read,
oral,
and
read
kinesthetic.
and
Neil and
Kinesthetic.
Fleming.
Who developed this? Neil Fleming. Universal system model, the first one. Who was this?
Beck
Addy.
and Beck and Scorner.
Addy?
ADDIE stands for analyze, design, development,
Okay.
implement and evaluate.
Who developed this?
It was developed by
John Keller, sir.
No,
Stanford.
Florida State.
Okay.
Florida, sir.
Backward design.
Backward design.
J. McTighe.
Stanford.
Stanford. Today only you told.
Design thinking model was developed by
Stanford, sir.
Stanford.
Okay. So let us go back. I just thought I should give this little break for breaking my monotony. Oh, where are we? Okay. We were here. So this is the Gagné's model. And now we move on to Dick and Carey model. Very simple, flow chart, as you can see. Really very well developed, right? How do we go about in developing design? Need identification, then conduct an instruction analysis, and simultaneously analyze the learners and the context. Then write the performance objectives. And that leads to the assessments, instruments, that leads to instruction strategy, that leads to the development instruction materials, and that in turn leads to the developing the assessments of instruction, and by designing the summative. So you see there is the ADDIE thing explained fully through this logical diagram. And then you can see where to revise instruction required, the feedback that is required. A very useful model that Dick and Carey developed for instruction design, which can be a good template for us to, as a checklist for us to see everything there's no stone unturned approach. So this is the base of the system which is having 10 components. So you can count the number of components. The 10 no stone unturned approach to develop a instruction design. So it uses the same 9 steps, of Gagné earlier we saw, and then based on that specific, strategies or instruments or tools and objectives are developed for instruction design. Now this model is caught up a bit late, called the assured model. So assured stands for A for analyze learners, S for state standards and objectives, then S again for selecting strategies, technology, media, U for utilizing technology, media, and material, then R stands for requiring learner participation, and E for evaluate and revise. So assured model is more used for developing of e-learning content or material. So it emphasizes how students with different learning styles are required to interact with the environment. So this is why it's a model which ensures that because people have different learning styles, then they can you please mute, please? Somebody.
Deepika, can you mute yourself?
So
It's not me. It's not me.
okay, whoever it is, difficult to point of identify in a group of 45, but please mute everyone. So this also users make use of Gagne's 9 events of instruction, and it highlights those 6 classroom procedures. So again, I go back, these are all developed in classrooms. And so these are central procedures, classroom procedures, which are central for selection of education technology, method, media, content, technology, whatever they use. These 6 procedures are used. Now, having understood a bit ADDIE, remember the last class we discussed about ADDIE. ADDIE also has similar processes. Assure is different than ADDIE in some ways. So Assure is not actually an instructional design process model. It's more a procedure model. It's actually a procedure. In a classroom, how do you go about doing it? Whereas ADDIE is clearly instruction design model. And ADDIE is for instruction learning environment where technology media is involved. Assure is more accurate approach. Assure as a stage called require learner participation. For ADDIE, you need not have learner participate. We do not engage of discussion with the learners. An instructional designer can discuss subject matter experts or the trainers and do it. But Assure makes it a point to have the confidence of the learners taking learners into confidence for this. Then ADDIE model does not specify the designer to identify how the learner will participate. Now, the strength of Assure is that the learner is technology centric, right? He develops the objectives based on the audience, behavior, conditions, and degree of mastery. To high level of mastery required, he will require a better technology. He may require better content, higher level content. So that is what Assure tries to ensure. So it tries to meet to the level of the participants, because we are having learner as equal participants in developing the content. It is not so in ADDIE. ADDIE, of course, over the iterations, you can make it more related, but it relies on flexibility, right? So Assure can be use the Gagne's method and go on, but ADDIE can be built on using other models as well, which we discussed. So limitations of Assure and limitations of ADDIE are a bit different. Assure, as I said earlier, is for classroom, the list of procedures in an academic setting. So that is having a narrow scope. Whereas ADDIE is linear, it can be applied anywhere, but it can be vague because so much of iterations are there. They can, when your two instructional desires can disagree. I also notice when I design a content for a particular thing, I may arrive at a different design, or another colleague of mine, if he or she is asked to do it, she may come out a different way, right? Because it is not taking the learner into a consultation. Okay, that's the reason, that's the difference between these two. Now comes another model which is deployed extensively these days. It's very recent as 2012. It is called the successive approximate method or model, sorry. So what does it do? It makes use of any, this is solely applicable for e-learning, developing e-learning designs, right? So you have a start, right? Then start could be pulling in ideas of people and then starting off, then evaluating those ideas. Then that can directly lead to content. But if that has to be further designed, then we again will have to discuss how to develop designs and then design and then further finalize it to typically in e-learning, we have this alpha, beta, gold and all that. So I can relate, but I do not have the time to share examples. Maybe post this course, I'm available for showing how we actually did it for e-learning courses. So here is where at the start, we prepare, right? What are the learners? What are the type of learners? What are the goals of the project, right? So we had projects coming up in our refinery. There was no time for the technological know-how transfers and things like that. So we had to develop this e-learning course, and then we got some experts, subject matter experts together to develop, to design this content. We got them together, and then there was a framework, there was some draft that was made, and these were further, identified. These are designs that could be developed for each of the contents, right? This came out. Then those which were responsible for writing the script, right? The plan, instructing plan, and the development that included people from, including myself and a subject matter expert, and also the corporate, desk, which was into the developing this e-learning content, which they had tie-ups. We had tie-ups with other organizations, TIS, Tata Interactive Systems, and several other people have been, organizations we had tie-up with. So in developing this design, and then develop these design into small chunks. So for the project, so there is something, that users can have and provide feedback on. Now, it is not as simple as it looks, right? There is what is called the first step, which is the alpha, right? Once all this is made, then editing is done. In a classroom session, you develop content, you deliver it. Then if there's a mistake, as somebody was saying, we can correct it and do it next. But it's extremely costly if you try to experiment for e-learning. Once e-learning course is developed, it's so very difficult to change it. You'll have to develop a new content. It's going to be extremely costly. That is why it's all the more important, even if it takes more time, to go into the rigorous process of alpha, beta, and gold, right? So once it's done, again discuss, develop, edit it further to bring about a basic design. Then the beta, which is another opportunity for us to review. I have, in my experience, realized that even after gold, we realized there were some mistakes done. See, the challenge that we have is the availability of subject matter experts because they're so busy on the site, right? So getting them, so after everything is over, when the gold is done and we start the launch, then they say, oh, this is a mistake. We should not have done it. That comes much later. So it's all the more important. Of course, we take it a point to sign or take a sign off. So that's why they make it they are sometimes more attentive, but it's very, very important. We'll have to have the alpha, beta, and the goal final, which is ready for deployment pre-offers. But even after goal also, we found out some mistakes happening. So this is because of carelessness or non-attentiveness of the particularly subject matter experts. To some extent, even the organization to which we have a tie-up with, right? They make some mistakes based on their expertise or something like that, not using the correct media for it. So if you see the tips for this particular SAM is in e-learning is goals. Then what are the resources available? There is so much available online content which can be used without any copyright issues, right? Then a brainstorming session, then have developed a prototype, then make a design proof, and implementing the multiple design evaluation, that is alpha, beta, and thing. Then involving stakeholders in every part, including design stage is very, very important, right? So these are some of the tips to implement a good e-learning in SAM, right? Then comes our very simple, though the surname is a bit complex, Charles Riggle's elaboration theory. He developed way back in 1978. This is a very simple depiction of what instructional design is, right? It's very useful. What is instructional design? One is the ways of organizing instruction. Second is ways of delivering instruction. Third is ways of motivating students. And fourth is ways of managing instruction. This is what is instruction design. Very simple, right? Now, under organizing instruction, which is the subject matter of our study over the last 2 weeks, right? It could be on a single topic, or it could be more than one topic. Where there is more than one topic, the elaboration theory is coming into picture, right? How to do it is what I'm forgetting name. This Reguluth is saying. I would prefer to call him Charles then, because it's easy to remember. So this is what is elaborate theory says, is that there are 7 phases, right, in the elaboration theory. Any topic which has to be further elaborated, right, will have to be brought in through a proper learning sequence, as we have discussed earlier, from the known to the unknown, right? Prior knowledge to the knowledge to be given. Then summarized. Then bringing together all that, pooling whatever we learn as a synthesis, using analogies to example, right? Step by step. If you want to understand the flying, how airplanes fly, then maybe I'm just giving an example, hypothetical, how the bird flies. So how the plane flies because of thrust. So in a bird, when it flaps its wings, there's a thrust forming under its wings. Similarly, when a plane is a propeller and it moves, I mean, the analogies in terms of whatever we see in day-to-day examples are to be brought out. Then some cognitive strategies to relate by how people think. How do they relate? By making them think, to understand. And then giving an opportunity for the learner to take on, to experiment, right? Now the honors of the learning is given to the learner himself or herself, right? Then only you learn. We're going back to that theory of self-directive learning, right? So let him be empowered to learn by himself. That's what Charles Riggle's elaboration theory says, right? To go through these 7 phases. So the guidelines involved is start from the broad and then zoom on to the specifics, right? Give a context and then try to bring into these specific, which what you are looking for, right? And then based on the type of information, sequence them, okay? Then give you some cues, give some quizzes. In fact, synthesis is almost useful for testing the knowledge, right? Okay, what did you know? What did you learn? Give some examples, give some, give a little quiz, a knowledge test. Thanks to today, technology, so many technology quizzes can be used. Then, as I said earlier, foster the understanding through analogies. What do you see? Where do you see this thing happening? Connect it. And then giving control to the learners. This is what the Riggle's elaboration theory talks about, right? Then we move on. And of course, the instruction designers should be, instruction should be organized in such a way from increasing order of complexity, from simple to complex, known to the unknown, so that the learning experience in such a way that people can retain the knowledge rather than facts alone. Here also, it talks about the importance of phased learning instead of giving information overload. Very brief, to the point, almost what we discussed in action mapping, right? What is that which is relevant only? Only what must know or should know or must learn, not things that are nice to know and things like that. Then this is a very popular, most of you are management graduates, you have heard about this IDA model in marketing, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. So here, attention is more, almost same thing. The principle is the same. It is awareness, interest, desire, and action. The only difference is instead of attention, it is awareness, but principally it is the same. So how do I create attention or awareness? By one, keeping the content which is personal to the audience. Again, what's in it for me? How do I benefit? Giving some teasers, right? Some very intriguing headlines, intriguing, openings, right? Some, what you call, punch, right? That you can do. I mean, I need not go explain to it. You see, when was it developed? You see, as late as early as 1898. There's one guy, I think, some Elon Smith or somebody. I don't remember the name. Is it? Yeah, sorry. Is it Elon Lewis? Sorry, Elmo Lewis. Right, as late as 1890, as early as 1890 was developed. So marketing was there almost 140 years back or 130 years back. So the same principle can be used even now, right? How do I do this? Then comes, since create an urgency to be done now. That's why you see in TV ads, there is things going so fast because of the attention span and also the attention required of individual, right? Then create the interest. So what are the pain points to strengthen the bond? So you see, typically you can relate. I will not give examples or analogies here. You take any ad of today's, mostly with reference to, I mean, it could even for gents as well, men as well, the children and the ladies per se. So it just connects to the pain point. It could be Lalitaji, Surf Excel or Nirma or whatever I call it. This could be connected to the experiences, storytelling. You remember that detergent or the toilet cleaner thing? Somebody tells a story. Main aisa karti thi, aisa. All that can be used here. Humor, some facts, tools. Then creating a desire. So being abhi, see, karid lo, be persuasive. So show how it can add value to the career, to the life, and how this can bring them out of the crowd. Now, ऐसा थोड़ी हो सकता. I mean, you just come out, you are special. After this, you will be totally a different person, right? This how is the IDA is developed. Even develop instruction, you can use the IDA model as well. Then action, right? Introduce urgency. Do it now. What is stopping you, right? Clear actions and CTAs, call to actions. Do it now. So this is always also a method of, developing, particularly where you need action immediately, right? And off late, this is coming into being, right? Suddenly your manager, somebody, if you're a training, so this is happening, I want immediately, by Saturday, I want this. You can use just like your action mapping model. You can use that also, use the principles of IDA as well, and then go ahead doing this too, right? Okay, we are coming to a quiz with this already done. We have already done this. Then there's a fill in the back. Okay, let's see how we are doing it. How many stages of experience in learning opportunity in calls model are there? How many stages?
4.
Okay. Honey, Mumford, how many styles?
4 stages.
Yeah.
4.
4 styles.
Do you remember them?
No, sir, not the names.
Divergent,
Reaction.
assimilative,
No, you're getting confused.
accommodative.
It's Klopp's model.
Oh,
That's still called. Here, what do they say? You remember activist, pragmatic? That is what the Henry model says. War cladding styles describe dash dash. What does it mean? Dash dash dash.
visual,
Visual.
visual, action,
Audio.
audio,
Read,
write, and kinesthetic.
Read, write, and kinesthetic.
So the marketing model adapted for education suggests what?
IDA.
IDA. So what is A stands for?
IDA action, awareness,
Awareness, Interest,
Awareness.
desire, and action.
Regular
Awareness, interest,
collaboration
desire.
theory as how many major
10.
7.
10.
developed e-learning is acronym for
Sam as successive.
approximation method. So it's an iterative process. Approximation. You can't have it first time right. It's an iterative process wherein using this.
Approximation model.
Okay. Assured addresses 6 dash dash. What is dash dash?
6 e-learning methods.
It's different. It could be used, but what way assured is different from ADDIE principally?
The
Assured
classroom.
is
Model.
for-
E-learning.
It is e-learning. Classroom procedures.
Classroom.
Academics.
Correct.
It's more for academic classroom procedures, right? Classroom procedures to select. Dick and Carey describe how many phases of iteration for instruction design. Remember those 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a path. How many were there?
10.
10. Very good. Kathy Moore developed what? Dash dash model. What is it?
Acting mapping model.
Action mapping. Model.
Action mapping.
Almost right. CC model includes dash 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 and dash stages for learning outcome. C, context.
Challenge, activity, feedback.
Context, challenge, yes.
Good, great. So with this, I come to the end. I think we are
Well done, guys.
on time. If you have any questions, you may ask, or we'll call it a day. Yes, any questions?
AIDA can be used for something which, for example, if there's a product training, the product is launched and the team has to be trained. So we can launch with the AIDA. That is what we are talking.
It is more a principle, right? So you can definitely, so you have what you call program which you have to just start off, right? Making the principle you can use, as I said earlier, are the principles of AIDA. The content should be like that. You be prepared that you have the design of the content almost relating to AIDA principles. Like creating awareness, you're creating interest. You cannot, without any preparation, you cannot expect people to come and then develop that excitement which is required for AIDA, right? Do you have the module ready to create such experiences of attention, interest, desire, and action? The advertisement that you see, even if it is a 5 minutes, even if it's 10 seconds, it would require 10 days to develop that. Right? So the shorter you want, then the more time you have to spend in the design. Right? So I would suggest, in fact, the Kathy Moore's model, because most of the time you will be encountering such requirements of how to improve performance.
Kathy Moore is applicable to today's situation everywhere.
No, I will tell you one thing. I don't want to give the examples of recent tragedy that happened, which is in social media. My thoughts to the family of the girl who passed away. You know what is happening? Why this burnout happens? Why this burnout? It's my experience. It is not that, see, that person is a qualified person, right? It's quite possible there is not much of mentoring. There's not. It may be debatable, controversial. I just wanted to put this. People are not properly trained. They are, oh, you are a qualified person. Go ahead, do it. That is one problem. So people are lost in how to do. And the managers are all busy in their own work. So letting people, assuming they are qualified, they will learn by themselves, they will do it. It's not possible. Many of the areas, a proper system of, developing people is not there, right? So it is our responsibility, whether we are line managers or do we have SOPs? Do we have standard procedures? Quickly get people to pace. Then let them do by hit and trial. So what is causing burnout is hit and trial. So do it, they may, oh, no, this is not right, go back, do something else. So this is causing burnout. There has to be a standard way of doing things. This has to be developed by organizations. Of course, things are evolving. The environment is requiring people to, you have to be abreast to the competition, develop better methods and all that. Yes, that's more important. It may take few days time, but it's very important. Everybody has to know how to do the right way. Then you have, when you do it systematically, things will be just done in a jiffy. Because we do not have a proper method of doing, not taught, then we are forced to burn midnight oil, spend a lot of time at office. This is affecting our health and of course, whatever we are seeing. I think this is a high time that we in the training profession point out to our leaders in the organization. So we need to have some effective methods of developing content which will improve, accelerate the learning curve and get people what you call competent quickly. Are you with me?
Sure.
So this is something which we need to think about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Agreed,
Okay,
sir.
any other
I
questions?
agree. Agreed, sir.
Yeah. So all the best to you, and we'll meet next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Nice
Thank you
class,
so
sir.
much, sir.
Thank you.
See you guys in the next class.
See you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, sir. Thanks a lot.